Thank you. In English. We are very pleased today and honored to be able to present this report. As it has been mentioned, it's the first time that the UN is presenting a report about the state of the world's indigenous peoples. And I would say that the first thing that is important to acknowledge is that the report was written by indigenous peoples. So this is indigenous authors. This is the first time that we would say people are not writing about us. We are writing about the current situation that we are living in different parts of the world. As the report is organized in 7 chapters, the first chapter that was written by Joji Cariño emphasizes about self-determination and the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. And in this chapter, there are aspects of land rights, of territories that have been highlighted as some of the problems that we are facing. The second chapter is related to, was written by Naomi Kipuro, and it's about cultural diversity. In the second chapter, there is also reference to land right as the territory as the space in which we reproduce our culture, but there's also she calls the attention on the threat that languages are facing. There are more than 7,000 languages in the world, and we are saying that in the next 100 years, at least 90% of them will disappear. But there's also, she calls the attention on the commodification of our culture as something that sometimes can go against our right of self-determination. The following chapter on environment was written by Neva Collins, who also emphasizes the spiritual, cultural, social, and economic connection with our traditional lands and the right of the collective rights in contrast to the individual land ownership that is one of the threats that indigenous peoples are facing in different parts of the world. In education, there are some alarming information that comes up in this the chapter on education. There are in a lot of countries, including in the United States, a big difference between the level of education that indigenous peoples and compared with non-indigenous peoples. And there is also, in the end of the chapter, he calls the attention on the fact that although there are some good experiences of indigenous education, they do not receive enough support, and so we are facing the threat that the type of education that indigenous peoples are receiving is not good. The following chapter is related, it is on health. And this is another area in which we find information that is very worrying. For example, indigenous people's life expectancy in different countries is 20 years. There's a difference of 20 years compared with non-indigenous. And the high levels of maternal and infant mortality, malnutrition, cardiovascular illnesses. And I think it is very important that this report is coming at this moment when there will be a review of the MDGs, because the information that is in this report should be used to highlight the things that the policies that have to be adopted by governments if we want to really accomplish the MDGs. For example, there is in health, there is this problem of diabetes. There is information of communities in the United States, for example, in which 50% of the members of the communities are having diabetes, and this is related with the other chapter on biodiversity and land rights, because a lot of this, the change of diet and the loss of territory is related with the increase of diseases like this. The other chapter is related to human rights, and it highlights the big gap between the standard in human rights that have been accomplished and the big gap in the implementation. And the chapter highlights the violence against indigenous women and collective rights violation in the different countries. And the last chapter is about the emerging issues, and some of these are related with urbanization of indigenous peoples, migration, the effects of militarism, of violence, of conservation, and indigenous peoples that lives in voluntary isolation. Each one of there are regional facts in the reports that should be considered in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, in North America, and that shows the big gaps in education, in health, in land resources, health statistics, and shows the difference that we are facing as indigenous peoples. We consider that it is very important that the report is coming at this time when, for example, UNDP will be working on the Human Development report, and in which the concept of development will be analyzed. And we consider as indigenous peoples that we are offering an important tool with this report that should be considered in the discussions on new views of indigenous peoples development and the big gaps that we are still facing in the world. Thank you.